This is my story, my digital story. I've told hundreds of stories, but none of them like this. I've generated stories at bedtime that would rival some of the published tales that we tell children. But this story is not for those sleepy children. And when I really think about it, this story is not for you either. It's for me. Selfishly, with total selfish intent, it's for me. Now don't get me wrong, I'm going to share it with you, so when the end comes and the curtains close, this one is for me. So let's start at the beginning. My name is Rosemary Amena, and to be exact, that's Rosemary Valerie Amena. I don't have a middle name, only a first name, confirmation name, and a last name. My mother chose not to give any of her children middle names, so we could choose our own at confirmation. Sorry, I digress. I guess the story came to be during Hurricane Sandy. It's incredible how much time you have to reflect and think when you don't have electricity. And hurricanes, floods, fires, tragedies. I'm sorry, that's the story. So let's start here. My parents. Their story is not really one of great dramatic movie life. They married November 10, 1962. My mother chose the date of their wedding to coincide with the Marine Corps anniversary, hoping that my father would never forget their wedding anniversary. My father is the youngest of 4 boys. His father immigrated to the United States from Italy and there he met my grandmother. My mother was an only child. She was born just 8 months after my grandparents married. She was born during her mother's 6 months of pregnancy. My mother weighed only 1.5 pounds, and as she tells us, she was small enough to fit in a shoebox. Yes, her first bed was a shoebox. They set that shoebox on the edge of an oven in order to keep her alive and warm. My maternal grandmother died when my mother was barely 6 months old. My maternal grandmother was married, became pregnant, had a child, and then died from cancer, all within 13 months. Who would have thought that 74 years ago, that a child born to a mother dying from cancer, born prematurely, in the days before neonatal units, would survive with little or no developmental delay. My mother is nothing shy of a miracle. Maybe I get it from my mother. Oh wait, what did I get? Oh yes, resilient. The woman with whom I worked for a very short time said I was resilient. This woman barely knew me. Interesting. Let me tuck that into my memory for when I am without power for 5 days due to a hurricane, and I can actually reflect on her statement. Okay, let's get back to the story again. So, I arrived 362 days after my parents wed, and to my mother's embarrassment as a young child, I told people that I was born 3 days before they got married. Of course, I don't remember much from that age, but I do know, as documented by photography and the stories told at family holiday gatherings, that I was a quiet and curious child. So curious, in fact, that I fell off the kitchen table as my mother was changing me and I broke my arm. Well, and as that story goes, I fell and never cried. It was several days before my mother realized that I was holding my arm and quietly whimpering. And then she took me to the doctor. So as time passed, I grew into a lanky, awkward girl who loved animals. 2 weeks before my 4th birthday, my brother arrived. I became Mommy's little helper, feeding him, helping her bathe him. I was always there. That same year, I started kindergarten. You and I grew. We swam together. Played by the new car. It was a wonderful time. We lived in Bayonne, New Jersey. My father worked at the Maxwell House coffee plant in Hoboken, and I remember him smelling of ground coffee when he came home from work. And to this day, I still love that smell. The next few years just seemed to be a blur. My older brother arrived in March 1971. In December of the same year, we moved from New Jersey to a small town in Pennsylvania. My parents purchased a bar restaurant and lived in the apartment above it. I distinctly remember the moving truck, the snow falling as we passed it. I remember having to stop the tire chains as we negotiated the icy road. The trip was long and treacherous. Our life at the lamppost in was short-lived. After 4 years of working very hard, my parents decided to reward all with a trip to Disneyland. This wasn't any ordinary trip, but one that would be another holiday story. We drove through near research, renting an RV with a leaking sewage system, a failing battery, and very little heat. We loved every minute of our trip and our time together. When we returned home, we discovered there was a power outage and the cold weather had caused pipes to break at our home and business. Very dear friends insisted that we stay with them until the furnace was repaired and the building dried out. 4 days later, after the repairs had begun, and after the first day of reopening of the business, our family home and business caught fire and burnt to the ground. Had it not been for the generosity of our friends, we would have been at the house, and more than likely would have perished in fast-moving flames. Someone was certainly watching over us. We had lost every tangible everything. Our clothing, our furniture, toys, our business and income, and the worst loss of all, which was our pictures. To this day we try to find pictures, and we're sure that we can only recreate in our minds what those things were. Our friends and customers married. They had stayed and dried, and for the next several years, we wore their hand-me-downs with great pride. Again, the next several years went quickly. We moved several times, finally settling into Dallas, Pennsylvania. I was a freshman in high school. I became an active member of the school's marching and concert band. I was also involved in service organizations. After college, I moved back to New Jersey, where there were more opportunities for jobs. Yes, that's me at Cape May. And as my college friends married, so did I. And then we got our first house. And then along came my son Derek. Perspective of life changes after you have a child, and when I knew that life was going to head in a direction that I had never planned, I returned to school for a master's degree in education. I needed to be able to work hours that were conducive to me possibly being a single parent, and working rotating shifts at a laboratory was just not going to be possible. Derek was still very young when the marriage fell apart, yet I was determined to have the best life that we could. I was bound and determined to be normal, whatever that really is. So I bought a home, and Derek and I moved into that home. And it was small, but it was mine. I hoped it was a place that Bill could just play, be a kid, and enjoy his childhood. Several years went by, and it was a warm June day when I realized that I was abnormally tired and became worried about my health. I had been dating one man for several years, and as I was approaching 40 years old, I discovered that the road again was going to take us that time. I was expectant, and after a long, high-risk pregnancy of countless doctor visits and testing, in 2004, at 40 years old, when my son was 11, and I was single, my daughter Gianna arrived. Now, this is when I take a risk. And it's the first time that I stepped away and risked and took my first teaching job in Maryland. And what a year that was. I was alone with two children, one who was 6 months old, the other who was 11. I don't think I slept more than 3 hours uninterrupted. When March came, my father became so ill that my mother asked us to come to Florida because she didn't think he would make it more than a few days. It was spring break, no flights were available, so my brother and I drove throughout the night to get there. Thank goodness we did make it. Yet upon our return, my dear great uncle passed away. Remember, she said I was resilient, but at that point, knowing that my great aunt was 92, she could not live alone, I decided to walk away from the job in Maryland and move to New Jersey to help care for her for whatever time she might have left. Upon that move, I didn't find full-time work for a year and a half. My great aunt eventually passed away December 19, 2007. My father passed away the following year on Christmas Day. Resilience. Webster states the ability to recover from or adjust easily to misfortune or change. My life really had misfortune? I suppose, but doesn't everyone? Change? The only thing that we can ever be sure of is that things will change. I'm not so sure that recovery is the appropriate word to use for any of my life changes. Multiple moves, devastating fires, loss of love and relationships, loss of employment and income, loss of family in short periods of time. I suppose I could focus on these things and even dwell on them. But I have deep faith that things will somehow work out because they always have. I focus on other things. I focus on the support of a loving family. I focus on the deep friendship of lifelong friends and building and repairing relationships. I focus on giving of oneself in order for others to grow. I've watched my children grow. I've watched my son grow into a phenomenal young man. I love the silliness and laughter of children, the content smile of accomplishment, and the total and utter togetherness we have as what I call our precious little family. Yes, I focus on all the good things. Does that make me resilient? I guess it does. Yes.